Hi, this is Seb with Sign My Car. Today I have the honor to be with Yanik, and we are now live from Independence, Missouri. You have been in the US for about 17 years.
About 15, I think 15, but yeah.
15? Yeah, 15 years. How did you get here?
I got to the United States because at the time I met my then wife. I met her online and decided to come to the United States. Actually, I was planning to go to Australia, but then came over to the United States, and so we met and got married over here. And I came over with a fiance visa. So with a fiance visa, you have to get you have 3 months to get married. So you don't have a choice. You have to get married. So I came over, and then just we got married and lived in around Virginia for a while, and then Florida. And, so that's how I came to the United States. It was for love was why I came over. So.
Mm. Is it a little weird to only have 3 months to get married with a person you love?
It is a little strange. I have always told myself that I wanted to wait about a year, live with somebody for a year, so you have all the events of the year that go by, and then you know if that's the right person to live with. And so now that we're divorced, of course you can see it's not such a great idea, but yeah, that is a little weird.
Now you live in Missouri and the Kansas City metro. Is there something that you really like about this part of the US?
The people are extremely friendly and very, very trusting in the Midwest. I remember the first time I was in Iowa and I took the kids to school, and there were people, a guy would drive up with a Mercedes-Benz and get out of his car, leave the car running and to drop off his kids, and you would never see that in Florida. I mean, people are very, very trusting. They're generally friendly. So that's part of the Midwest that I do like. The weather in the summertime is warm. I mean, once it gets to spring and summer, the weather is great. But of course, on the downside, the winter time is really, you've got the two extremes. You've got extreme summers and you've got extreme winters in the Midwest. So that's very hard.
Now that you live in Missouri, what do you miss the most about Florida?
The weather.
The weather?
The weather, the sunshine, being anywhere near a beach is where I really want to be. So there was probably about less than an hour from a beach, and so that's what I miss the most, is the palm trees and the weather. Having grown up in the tropical weather, I need to be in a place that has nice warm weather. So.
You grew up in the tropical weather, so where were you born?
So born in Kinshasa as a year, then a year later went to Australia for 9 years, then came back to Africa for another 8, so a total of 9 there. And then Belgium 9 years, so 9, 9, 9, and then moved over to United States.
So if you lived in 4 countries.
Yeah, 4 different continents, yeah. Mm-hmm.
As a child, you were bounced around a lot, and you always had to say goodbye to your previous life. How do you find yourself? How do you find peace with your environment or your identity? How do you ground yourself in those circumstances?
I don't know if you can really ground yourself. I mean, that's the thing, is it's really hard. I mean, I had my cousin who told me that talking about me and my brother and my sister, that we don't have any roots anywhere because we've moved around so much. And it's harder for us to connect with people because we don't have that same mentality that other people have. That's difficult, yeah, when you move around like that and you have more like a free spirit, I guess. And
international people have often a difficulty to found people to surround themselves with. How did you surround yourself with great people?
When you move to a different country, it is hard to find people. I mean, if you have a language barrier, that's even worse. But I think if you find someone that you have something in common with, it definitely does help. When it's Iowa and I was all by myself there, what I did was go to the certain forums, and I actually met up with people who had general interests. One was Volkswagen Audi group, so it was a car related thing, and so people met, and so those are how I kind of made friends there. Then there was a French meetup group that I went to, and so met people there and kind of made friends through there. So for me it was mostly going online, trying to find people who had the same kind of interests and go that way. I'm not a person who really goes out to bars, and I don't think you can really find same thing for dating. I mean, I don't think you can find somebody out at a bar. It's more about finding people you have the same common interest with.
What is your favorite aspect of living in the US?
There's a lot of liberties, and there's a lot of really strange things. If you have a vehicle in the United States, you have a lot of liberties that you wouldn't have like in Belgium. If we compare to Belgium, like just getting a custom license plate in the United States is so cheap and so easy. In Belgium, it costs an arm and a leg just to get that. My person likes to travel too, so you've got a lot of things that you can explore in the United States, and you know.
As long as you have a car.
Yeah, the car, yeah, and the money to travel. So that's one thing too I like about the United States, and you have a lot more liberties in buying actual products, but you also have a lot more. You can get in debt a lot more in the United States that you could not do in Belgium.
So what has been your biggest challenge living in the US?
Understanding the way they use a credit card is different than like in Belgium. You usually have a credit card and you pay it at the end of the month. Here, you can rack up a whole bunch of debt with several credit cards and things like that. You have to have a credit card if you want to build up your debt, which is kind of silly.
And you need to have had credit to have your first credit card too.
Yeah, and you need to have two. One that's not you have a little bit of debt on one, a little bit of debt on the other to credit to build that up. It's the American system in that respect is kind of really weird.
So building your credit history was one of the biggest challenge.
That's a challenge, yeah. So luckily, at that point, I had my wife at the time had good credit, so that helped.
So you had support from somebody within the system.
Yeah.
I see. That can be a huge asset.
Yeah.
Do you miss living in Belgium?
I miss my family. I miss the pastries and the food, really good food that you can't get here. I think that the mentality of working in Belgium is much better than the United States.
How is it different?
It's different that here in the United States, it's all about the dollar, and it's work, 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 work. Belgium and Europe in general understands better that you need to have time off. You need to be able to rest. I mean, you start a job in the United States, you're lucky to have a 1 week off.
So you kind of miss the more laid-back attitude towards work.
Yeah, Australia is even more laid back, and people are just waiting to go out and go and surf the waves and everything. I mean, the different cultures are very interesting. So.
With Sign My Car, I really want to show that we are more than our nationalities. A question I love to ask is, what's your biggest passion?
Biggest passion? I don't know what my biggest passion is.
You do have quite an amazing collection of Mac computers downstairs.
I do have that, yeah. I do love computers and things like that. And that's funny because there's two parts of me. I love technology and computers, but I like breaking away from technology. And I could lay down near a beach and just rest for hours and not be anywhere near technology, and I'd be happy. On the other side, I love and I use technology every single day.
If you had one advice to give to another Belgian moving to the United States, what would it be?
I think when you move here, or anywhere else, you got to expect this change, but change can be good, and you have to kind of adapt to where you go. If you have things from your country that you're moving from, if it's Belgium, bring some of those things maybe along just to remind you of that country. If you love your culture in that country, you can still use and keep that culture even if you're in the United States. I mean, I've got my citizenship, but I don't. It's not because I got my citizenship that I did everything that Americans do. So you just can go with it.
So accept change, and adapt, but also know that you don't have to leave everything behind. You can still take some of your culture and even some of your stuff with you, and you don't have to throw it by the window.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Yanik, for this interview.
Want to say anything, Cleo? No?